guys, like, you're robbing yourself of rich relationships by trying to fuck everybody. Like, you're robbing yourself.
Welcome back to my podcast. Today I have a very special guest who's one of my longest time best friends, an artist, a musician, and he goes by Logos. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And even though you're Logos, I know you as Jordan. And we've been friends for about a decade.
Yeah, I think it's like 10, 12 years.
Yeah,
like
it's been a long time. I know it's been over a decade because my Facebook memories, remember I sent you a screenshot of one and you had posted something on my wall. You said you're so B word, and I was like, I don't know. We don't ever remember what that joke was about.
I think I do. It's because B word is like Bianca.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. But it was like from like 10 or 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So we've been friends for a long time. And I think that immediately people think, okay, a girl and a guy, they've been friends for a long time. They must have dated at some point and then they became friends or something. And we've never had a romantic aspect to our friendship. Our friendship has always been like brother, sister.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is like, I mean, I don't want to say it's like so rare, but it doesn't, you don't see it that often. At least people don't, talk about it or something.
I think there's not enough of it because people fear that it's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
They fear that their relationship won't allow it. Or they maybe start to build that and then they enter a relationship and then they drop all of their relationships or friendships with people of the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to talk about friendship first here.
Sure.
And I think we can start with kind of how we became friends just to give people some context. So
sure. Yeah. I was working at LA Fitness. Mm-hmm. And I think I had like met you through I think Brenda or something. Yeah. Before either of us worked there, I don't know. And I remember you worked at the front desk, and I was slanging memberships, ripping people off, and we were just sit at the front desk and chit chat about like, look at this person over here, and like, who's this, who's that, and really like I fell in love with this woman that worked there. I don't know if you remember Erin.
I remember her. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, I'm gonna date her one day.
She was a yoga teacher.
Yeah. She was a yoga teacher, and so every day we would talk about like, oh, I'm gonna say this to her, or and then you would talk about kind of some of the relationships that you were having.
Yeah, I mean, I went through so many iterations of boyfriends and guys I was dating.
Postman.
Oh God. Yeah, I had a temporary fling with a guy who was a mailman. We don't talk about that time in my life. I was like 18, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah. And it was really cool because it's like we got to talk about our relationships with other people. And it was like a cool soundboard. To have like a sound, intelligent female perspective, especially when I'm working in a Shark Tank that's just like filled with toxic masculinity, like that. Working at a gym, sales is like boiler room type shit, like fuck you, pay me, like, look at that girl over there, type shit. And it was really cool to have that that female perspective when I'm like, oh, I guess I never thought of that. And to this day, I'll ring you up and I'll be like, hey, should I bring this girl to this party?
And I'm like, no, bad idea. Don't bring one girl to the party that another girl invited you to. Not a good idea ever. Yeah, and that was kind of how our friendship started. Was just it went from small talk, chit chat to then, like you said, giving each other advice and perspective in a way that maybe wasn't available to us before, because I have a younger brother, but I don't have an older brother or like a male family member that's my age. And, you know, same for you. You don't have a sister that's your age. Your sister's younger than you. And so it was nice to kind of to have that and to start to build this very safe platonic friendship. And then we just stayed friends even when you left working at LA Fitness and I was still there, I think, for a little while. And then we just always maintain our friendship. Even when you moved away for a while, we would talk on the phone and catch up. And I think that that's a really important part of, I've talked about friendship with Maria Luisa before on this podcast. And we've talked about how you have to put in effort and energy into a friendship. And a lot of people will think, oh, like this person hasn't texted me or called me, or they don't, you know, they're not commenting on my post on Instagram anymore. Like they clearly don't want to be my friend. But are you texting or calling them? Are you commenting on their Instagram posts? Are you putting in effort or energy to the relationship? And so I feel like that's something that allowed us to stay friends for so many years, even through, you know, you moved away, then you came back, and then I moved to California, and then like a month later you called me and you were like, I'm moving to California for a totally different reason that was unrelated. And then we were able to, you know, to see each other. And then at one point we were literally neighbors, which was really fun. For like, that was like pretty much during the whole pandemic period. We were living across the street from each other, and that was really fun. And so I think that it starts with putting in that effort. And what would you say, let's say a girl is listening to this podcast and she's like, yeah, that sounds great, but when I start talking to a guy, I feel like they have romantic interest in me, or they want to have sex with me, and so I can't ever create that like safety.
There's a lot I can say about that for sure. I would like to back up really quickly and speak to the friendship piece in general of keeping in contact. There's one of my favorite quotes. I think Khalil Gibran said it. I could be wrong. He's like, friendship is but a sweet responsibility. A sweet responsibility. It doesn't mean like, oh, you know, it's one-sided. It doesn't mean that, oh, you're my friend, so you're just going to do anything I ask. And if you don't, and you set a boundary with me, then you're not my friend. Like, no, actually, that person is being honest with you, because yes men aren't your fucking friend either. Yes men, people that are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do whatever you want. They're getting some void filled by you, anyways. So, but as far as like, if there's a woman listening to this that would like a male friend. First of all, I'll tell you, it's hard. It is hard. It takes like a certain kind of frame of the relationship, because it's like, okay, well, did you meet them out at a bar? Did you, where the context is usually like
people looking to meet people to hook up.
Yeah. You know, it's like, did you meet them on a dating app? It's like, you know, like what is the context? I think like that's the most important thing. It's like we worked together,
right?
Like we had to be in each other's presence, like regardless if we liked each other or not. You know what I'm saying? Like we were forced to be there. So it's like, what is the context? I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is this is actually something that I've been having this conversation with a few of my female friends who it's been platonic and not platonic and platonic and not platonic. And so what I'm saying is like, I've been physical with them, and we're friends, and we hang out, and where it's not physical.
Yeah.
And so speaking to that might be a little bit easier in the sense that, like, for men, and I feel like so many men might get pissed about this, but like as a whole, like we usually think about it differently. So with women, you're genetically predisposed to be more selective. It's like the answer is no until it's yes when it comes to physical interaction. With men, the answer is yes unless you have a good enough reason for it to be no. And that's just how it goes. Like it's like, oh sure, if a female has like what is it called, like a approaches a man and kisses him on the mouth, and he's a single man, and he's not like he's not attracted, he's not like he's not super attracted, he's probably gonna be like, yeah, okay, sure,
yeah, like let's have sex,
like sure, you know what I mean? Like that's just how it goes. And now, am I speaking to every single person? No, I can't speak to every single human, but I'm talking about on a bell curve. That's just how it goes. So be prepared for that. And so what that means is, if you're a female looking for that friendship, and I'll speak to the men as well, because that's a whole another thing. Speaking to the female that's looking for that, is setting that boundary of like, we are just friends.
Yeah.
Like it is
start.
From the start. It is so important, because like if a man gets a little bit confused, he might go chasing that rabbit. It's like using your flirtation or whatever to maybe procure this friendship might not be a good idea.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that as well. And I think I like that you brought up the context of which you meet people, and you, of course, you can meet people at a bar or on a dating app, and it turns into a friendship. But it's more likely that you have a better chance at finding those platonic opposite sex relationships in different settings, whether it's like more community settings. It doesn't always have to be that you're working together, but you could meet people at like a yoga in the park event, or a silent disco event, or a pottery class, or whatever kind of hobbies you go to, depending on the type of friends that you want to attract into your life. I like to attract into my life people that like to dance. So when I'm at events where there's dancing involved, that's where I make friends sometimes. And I actually did make a platonic male friend at another friend's party on the dance floor, because this guy was dancing. His name is Michael. And he was dancing so good. And then I was like, you're just killing it. Like, and then I was just dancing with him, and I was like, you're a really good dancer. And then we just started talking, and I just established right away, like, oh, that's my boyfriend over there. What's your story? And we started, like, I kind of got right into that, like the same way with you, like just establishing, like, this is my love life. I'm not like interested in you in that way. And then we like chat and dance, and he came to my birthday party, and it was like, so it is like the setting, and think about like the kind of friends you want to attract. And then when you're in those settings and you meet somebody, letting them know right away, like that if you think they're cool, the same way you would if you meet another girl that you think is cool, like, wow, I think you're really cool. Like, I love your outfit. But, being aware that you're not like using that flirtatious energy, because we do, as women, we have the availability within us to tap into our inner temptress archetype, which is great when we want to capture the attention of somebody that we want to, go down that route with. But just being really aware, because I think that what happens sometimes is women can see a guy, think he's cool, they think he's good looking, and then they're like, oh, he's actually really cool, but I only want to be friends with him. Well, now he's confused because you initially were flirting with him. So I think be really clear if you're looking for friendship or not is going to make it easier.
Which to me, it's actually solving the hard problem, is that you should always just be looking for friendship first anyways.
Yeah, and if it turns romantic, then great.
Yeah. It's like, I'm out there looking for love. It's like, okay, go find some friends. Go start there first, because a good romance is based in friendship anyway. So it's like, just because trust me, I know I've started in lots of romances and burned out because, like, there's no foundation of like a friendship at all. It's just based on physical, and then I like their whatever. But
yeah, I think that's a really good point. And my relationship with Nimai kind of started out that way as well. When we first started talking on Instagram, neither one of us had intentions of, I didn't message him and keep messaging with him thinking this is going to be my next boyfriend. Like, I'm looking for love. I actually wasn't looking for love at that point, because I just got out of a relationship, and I was just like, this is a cool, another vegan bodybuilder person. And we started talking, and then after a little while, we realized like we obviously were attracted to each other, and then it progressed into more of a romantic relationship, but we didn't even meet in person for 3 months. So we were just talking,
Mm-hmm.
talking, and becoming friends. And we had that best friend bond. And when you have a best friend bond with somebody, and then you decide to move it into romance, then it's a really wonderful relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is a really good point, that people should look for friends. And if you feel like you're lacking love in your life, friends, the familial bonds that you can create with friends will give you so much love in your life. And I think a lot of people really underestimate that. And they think friends are just people I go and get brunch with once a week. No, friends become family. And that's what you and I and our friends, that's what we have experienced. And it's been really healing for us. And it's allowed us to support each other through hard times and collaborate on things with like work and projects and different things that we're constantly evolving to as well. And as well as celebrating our wins together.
Guys, like, you're robbing yourself of rich relationships by trying to fuck everybody. Like, you're robbing yourself. Like I had a wonderful conversation recently, actually relatively recently, with a bunch of dudes at a bar. And we were talking about like I was talking about how I don't appreciate double standards, because one of the people was talking about, well, like I don't allow my girlfriend to go on a dinner date with
Her
guy friends or whatever. And I was like, so like you're not allowed to go on a dinner date with like a friend that's a girl? And he's like, well, I don't know why you need to go on a dinner date with a friend. And I'm like, guys, we're at dinner right now. Like, what the fuck? I was like, having a female friendship is the same as having a male friendship, except for they're just of the different sex. I was like, guys, imagine all of us sitting here, all the great conversation that we're having. And I don't think any of us want to fuck each other. Am I right? And they're like, oh, making jokes, all this stuff. I'm like, now imagine that, but it's just a woman. Like, yeah. And they're like, oh, like it was like this, right? Like it was like this, like to take sexual like interaction out of it. We're people, for God's sake. Like, why does everything have to be about like the dance of like this and that? It's like, we're fucking humans. Yeah.
And oftentimes in dynamics like that, where somebody is not comfortable with their partner having friendships with people of the opposite sex, it's usually a projection, because they don't trust themselves, and they feel like in a situation like that, where it's a guy who's okay with having dinner with his friends who are girls, but not okay with his girlfriend having dinner with guy friends. It's a projection of because their thinking pattern is, well, if I spend time with somebody who's attractive, I am having sexual thoughts about it. So then my partner must be doing the same thing. And it's just becoming aware of that. And I think especially, there's definitely important boundaries to have in relationships and to protect the sacred union of your relationship. There are not every single person that you meet is trustworthy and has good intentions for you. Of course, there have been, over the course of this couple of years that I've been with Nimai, there have been girls who we've met who I didn't trust their intentions. And then I turned out to be correct, that they wanted to kind of infiltrate my relationship. And so friendships like that are not okay.
Oh, sure.
But we have made so many friends over the past 5 years together. He's made new friends that are female, and I've made new friends that are guys, and we are able to like grow and have experiences and learn from all of these different people. And it's been wonderful. And I have been in a relationship before. My relationship that I had before Nimai, that was very unhealthy, and not I was not showing up as my best self, and neither was my ex-partner. But whenever I would hang out with you, I would lie to him. And I wasn't hiding anything, but I didn't want to deal with how he would react to me saying, I'm going to go have dinner with my friends. So I would just say I'm having dinner with my mom. And of
Mhm.
course, now I was lying and I wasn't being honest. And that's like a huge problem.
Right.
But there was we were having like these platonic dinners where you were showing me like pictures of girls that you were meeting on Tinder or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it was not,
I know.
you know,
Yeah.
it was like, it was so innocent. But so I think that it's important for, like you said, for men to take a step back and take sex out of everything. Just because just because you're single and you meet a girl who's single and attractive, it doesn't mean that you immediately have to think, what can I do to have sex with this person? Like, just get to know that person, because they might become your best friend of a couple of years, or you never know where that relationship will go, and maybe you'll become friends and then it will progress to something romantic. But
yeah, and who knows, maybe you guys become friends, she invites you to a party and you meet your wife there. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like, just calm down, you know, like the sexual conquest thing is like, it's just a relationship robber. It really is. And then also too, if I could contextualize the date thing, like the dinner date thing, because that's important. I'm not saying that, let's just say if I'm in a relationship with someone and they're like, oh, I just met this guy, he wants to take me to dinner. Okay, that's different.
Of course, the context is everything.
He says we're just friends. You know.
Yeah, and same goes for, you know, the opposite kind of dynamic. If, you know, you're a woman and your male partner says, oh, I met this girl just DM'd me on Instagram and she wants to get coffee with me. If there's no acknowledgement of your partner, like I've talked about this, I've touched on this, I think, in episodes with Nimai, is that, again, this is kind of where the boundaries of the relationship come in. And it's important when you're in a monogamous relationship to know kind of what's the protocol when we meet people. Like, how do we filter that their intentions are good and that it's somebody we want to be friends with? One of the biggest filters for me is if a person is not interested in knowing or acknowledging my partner, they're a red flag for me, and vice versa. So I've made guy friends who I meet them, they're cool, like we're talking, and I have no kind of sexual anything, like I'm not available, and then I notice that they don't follow Nimai on Instagram, or like if I mention Nimai, they like kind of brush over it. Red flag. I'll stop talking to them, because I'm like, if you can't acknowledge my partner, then I don't know what you're like. That's a huge part of my life. That's like that's my partner. You know what I mean? That's like pretty much my husband. You know, and then vice versa. So if Nimai, like there's girls, you know, at the gym that he goes to the gym way more than me. He knows everybody there and I don't. And if there's lots of girls that he's met at the gym who then they follow me on Instagram and I meet them and they're like, oh, I've heard so much about you. And then we become friends and I'm like, you're cool. Right. Or I meet them and I meet their boyfriend and it feels really cool. And then there's girls who I get a totally different, you know, energy from, where it does, like, again, like I said, it feels like this, like they kind of want to infiltrate the relationship, or they're just trying to like fuck my boyfriend. And I'm like, you know, you have to be really aware of the context of the situation when you are in a relationship. And it kind of goes back to like what you said before, is just setting those boundaries right away of like, I'm just looking for like a friend. I have a partner, and it's really important that that new friend meets the partner. Old existing friends, I don't think should have.
Yeah.
When you have old existing friends and you get into a relationship, I think it's unfair to say, okay, I'm not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to talk to your guy friends anymore. That's a red flag for the relationship.
Yeah, that's actually, let's speak on that too, because like
that was my ex, and that was why I like had to lie to hang out with my friends, which is not something I'm proud of that I did.
Yeah,
but
it's so nasty. It's because
it's very controlling.
You know, there's just like natural thing that happens when people get in a relationship, right? They spend a lot of time together, like a lot of time usually. I think that should be managed, you know, obviously to your taste level, but it's like, it's very easy for it to go months and months and months without like seeing your friends, and those first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, all of a sudden you haven't really spent much time with your friends.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, not, you know, who knows? Like, who knows what's going to happen with that relationship, and now all of a sudden like your friends are like, well, this person doesn't talk to me anymore. I've been guilty of that for sure. Like when I fall deep and I fall hard, and then all of a sudden I'm like, fuck my friends, but that's not super healthy. It's not
No, it's
great.
not. And it's important to, if you are, speaking from a woman's perspective, if you're a woman and you have guy friends and then you meet somebody and you get into a relationship or you start dating them, I think it's really important to introduce your friends really early on and allow your new partner to build friendships with those people as well. Because ideally, if you're dating somebody with the hopes of getting married, and that's kind of the goal for the majority of people, right, in monogamous relationships, is that we date, we get married, we have kids together, we spend forever together. What's the long-term plan for your friendships? For me, it's kind of the same thing. It's like I want to see my friends go through all of the stages of their life, and I want to spend holidays together, and I want to celebrate things together. And so, being that my friends are like my family, I want to make sure that everybody gets along right away, and that there aren't any you're not allowed to talk to this person, situation. And so I think that when you start dating somebody, introducing them to your friends when you feel ready to, as early on as possible, will allow them to then feel like you're bringing them into your community. It's not like where you are now creating this community of just you and your partner and nobody else is allowed in, because then that's when it can be unhealthy. And if your partner starts saying, okay, you're not allowed to see those people that you used to spend time with before I came into your life, that's a big red flag, because it's just not. It's extremely controlling. You're a human being. You're allowed to have connection, and community is extremely healing for us in so many ways. So I think bringing your partner into your community, pretty early on, whenever you moved to California, I know you met Nimai, and it's always been like, it's always been like chill with you and Nimai and your brother and like just everybody. Like, I knew like this group of guys, because it wasn't just you that moved from Florida. It was you, your brother, Patrick. And so, I had to tell Nimai like, hey, there's this group of guys that I've known for a really long time. Like, we need to all hang out. And then it was like me and like the boys and my boyfriend, and everybody got along. And I was like, great. Like now you can, he felt safe, and he was like, oh, okay, there's clearly like the energy here is safe. Like these people are not trying to have sex with my girlfriend. They're people that I can trust. They're like brothers.
Yeah. And
then that allowed for, so much ease. So I think that that's a really important step.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I've actually had this new rule when I'm dating now, is I introduce them to my friends as fast as possible. Like I'll be like, hey, we're going out to this place. And like, if they like are not nice to them or they're not whatever, I'm just like, okay, like it's like my test.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't, we're adults now, we're in our 30s, I mean, you're not, but,
I'm almost there.
Almost. And it's because it's like there's you by yourself, there's you with another person, and then there's you in a group of people. And I think the you in a group of people is so easily malleable, it seems like.
Yeah, it shifts.
Something I've noticed. And so I kind of like, I'm like, okay, let's see what this is like. Is you in a group of people, specifically maybe that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I've been having a lot of failures in that.
Well, you're filtering to find the right match, which is great.
Which is great, guys. Red flags are fucking red flags for a reason.
Yeah, so then this. Okay, this isn't what I want. So now I can continue to get more clarity on what I do want in a partner. And I think also I would add that as the friend of having an opposite sex friend, when your friend gets into a relationship, just like I said, it's on the person in the relationship to be like, oh, let me bring you into my community. It's also important to, as the friend, allow the other person to feel comfortable. And I've always tried to do that when you've had girlfriends, and like I've always become friends with your girlfriends. Like, one of my best friends is somebody that you dated, and when you dated another woman who was you didn't stay with, but you were, with her for a while. And I know how it can be saying like, hey, this is one of my best friends, and it's like an Instagram model. It can feel a little like, maybe intimidating to women. So I immediately was like, come to dance classes with me. Like, let's get lunch. And I built my own friendship with her in order to allow her to feel safe and get to know me and know my intentions and not feel, uncomfortable. And I think that that's really important, for women to make other women feel safe, and for men to allow other men to feel safe too, so that we can all continue to just expand our community and have lots of love and friendships.
Yeah. And then also, just to put a cap on the male and female friendship, was one of my favorite quotes ever that I should just get tattooed on me at this point. It's a person's success in life is determined by the number of uncomfortable conversations they're willing to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, I like you as a friend. Like, I really am interested in you because of this reason. And I'm not looking to explore a romantic relationship with you right now, but I really mean it when I say I want to be your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't have that conversation after you've been flirting and sending pictures and doing all this. You have to have that conversation like before any of that shit, because then it doesn't mean anything. So again, frame and being intentional.
A great example of that is our friends She Wolf Lauren and Shane.
Mm-hmm.
They met on a dating app, and I think they went out to dinner, they had coffee, that just like one meetup, and they had a really good time talking, getting to know each other. And then Shane was like, I don't feel a romantic connection, but I really like you, and I would just like to be platonic friends.
Wow.
And she said, okay, like kind of probably hurt her ego a little bit, like, because it's like to pretty much rejection, but also, okay, cool, friendship. And then they became friends, and they were platonic best friends for a year. And then they went through some healing on their own and their own journeys. And then suddenly they were like, whoa, wait a minute. The romance, notch just turned on, and and then they fell in love, and then they're, now they're together, they're engaged, and they have a house together.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's not always going to be the case. That was not the case with us. Like, our friendship is just like brother and sister, but I think it's really important to like have that uncomfortable conversation right away, because you don't know what it will lead to. It could lead to like a best friend or a family member, or like you said, they could introduce you to your future person.
Yeah. And so like, and again, to reiterate, like, to the men, like, if I had made it weird at some point, like, we probably wouldn't have this friendship.
Totally. Because anytime a man makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm like, bye.
Yeah. Think about it. I would be robbed of a rich 12 year relationship because of like, say something stupid or make some stupid male advance just because I was fucking bored.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just you're robbing yourself of that shit. So, and it's great because like I have plenty of platonic female friendships that are great. And it's like there's 8 billion people out there, guys.
Yeah.
Like, just be mindful of the sexual pursuit, because it's very easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy to just, well, let me just try this. Let me try this. Let me shoot all these shots. Da, 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 da. It's like, wait a second. Are you just like doing that just because of like your instincts? Or are you really like actively trying to romantically get with this person? It's like, be intentional about where you put your sexual energy too.
Right. And I think even beyond like the male kind of instinct, it's also like, if men really want to elevate their conscious evolution, that as they expand their self-awareness, they will be able to see that as something completely different. And they might realize that a lot of it is influence from like kind of a toxic masculinity culture, or this feeling like they need to prove themselves to other men by how many women they've slept with. And as they expand in their own self-awareness, they realize that shit doesn't matter at all. And what really matters is, having fulfillment in life, experiencing joy, being in alignment with your truth, and having wonderful experiences and experiencing love, and all types of love, platonic love and romantic love. And when you see life through those lenses, then you're not worried about fucking everything that walks.
Yeah.
When I meet a man and I can sense that in him, or maybe he's just really blatant about it, and he talks about like, oh, I had sex with this girl and this girl and this girl, like it's like a conquest type of situation. You know, I do my best to not judge them, because who am I to judge another human being? But I just see that as a totally different type of person that I'm not aligned with to be friends with, because the type of men that I want to be friends with are the type of men that are not seeking to utilize women as conquest. They're not seeking to prove themselves to other men through sexual endeavors or through disrespecting women. Like, those aren't the type of men that I want to surround myself with. And so it's kind of like a filter for me for friends as well, you know? Yeah. So.
Yeah. And also to speak to the men that are on a sexual conquest, nobody asks you how many. Nobody cares. That's a high school question. Nobody gives a shit. So it's like you can like look. I'm having conversations with plenty of guys. You know, I'm in my 30s now. I love saying it, but it's like you can look back and be like, nobody cares. How many? Like, literally, no one gives a shit. Like, you know, but I will tell you how many headaches that you had fucking around with somebody that you didn't have any business fucking around with, but you were just putting your sexual energy there. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? So you save yourself a lot of headaches by not succumbing to your sexual conquest nature.
Yeah, and not being influenced by the culture that has allowed men to believe that conquesting through sex, it makes them cool or better or more masculine.
Or more of a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, more of a man.
Yeah, that's not it. I want to switch to talk a little bit about, like I mentioned earlier, evolving, allowing your truth to evolve. And you and I have seen each other in all of these different iterations of each other. Like, we knew each other as the front desk girl and the salesperson at LA Fitness. I've known you as like different, like doing different types of careers, and you've seen me doing different types of careers and projects and things. And it's like, we're always evolving. And I think it's really cool that we both are kind of following that call of, this thing doesn't make me happy anymore. This thing now feels like it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's a cool experience. So like for you right now, it's music. And that's been cool for me to, you know, witness and support and be a part of, because I was in your music video that comes out soon. And yeah, so I want to talk about that a little bit, because I know that people get stuck and they believe that they have to stay there. They're like, I am a high school teacher and that's all I can do, and this is my career. That's all I can do. I can't change. And then they get to a point where like, it doesn't make you happy anymore. And we've been taught like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay, you're that thing. Stick with it. And you don't have to be. You can change.
The first thing that comes to mind to speak to that is a lot can happen in 2 months. Your life can dramatically change in 2 months. Like, when I worked at Esurance, I was getting sick to my stomach signing into work. Like, I had a great job. I was very good at it. Like, I was working 4 days a week. I was making great money for my age. And I was able to work from home. Like, this was like a long time ago when it wasn't as...
Yeah, people weren't working from home.
Yeah, you know. And I had no real plan. I was like, fuck this, I'm done. That was the last time I had like a job. And that started I started an entertainment company. I was doing promo modeling. I was doing this and that. And I look back after 2 months and I'm like, wow, I don't really have any real clear picture of my financial life, but I'm not feeling sick to my stomach doing something that I really don't want to do, you know? And so I wouldn't recommend quitting your job with no plan, but all I'm saying is like, I'm speaking to these 2 months of when I had the book business where I sold books on Amazon, and from month 0 to month 2, we scaled exponentially. Like all of a sudden, we're like, oh wow, like we're making great money. And on the flip side of that, it took less than 2 months for that business to crash and burn, And then all of a sudden, I'm like, shit, I have all this debt now because I was like on this upward trajectory, and so to speak to a lot can happen in 2 months is like if you feel like destitute, if you feel like stuck, if you feel like you can't move, just imagine doing something new for 2 months. Just imagine doing something new. It's like, oh, I want to start this jewelry business. I want to start a clothing line. I want to start making music or whatever. You don't have to do it all in one day. Just think about 2 months. Think about it like, okay, all right, I'm a school teacher. Okay, so I have this much free time. Maybe 2 or 3 times this week, I will look at YouTube videos on how to do this.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. And then all of a sudden you can look back in 2 months and be like, oh wow, I know how to produce a beat now, or at least, or whatever the fuck you're looking to do. 2 months is not that long, but a lot can happen. So I think like that's like the first thing that I can speak to that. But like as far as like following your creativity, oh man.
Yeah, that's the calling. And I recorded a podcast yesterday actually with Sahara Rose, and she wrote a book called Discover Your Dharma, which is your Dharma is your soul's purpose. And we kind of touched on this topic as well. And she said that, your Dharma, which is your soul's purpose, is not this thing that you have to be, right? Like I have to be this thing. It is just your following, essentially, like being in your essence and creating from there. When you're in your most aligned essence, whatever you create, you're living your Dharma. So that might be creating a podcast, creating music. It could be creating a coaching program to help people through whatever specific kind of problem you want to help people through, right? It could be, it doesn't even really mean that you need to become an entrepreneur, but creativity or creation is a really big word. It covers a lot of things. It's not just, I'm going to create a business, which is where our mind goes. Of course, you can do that. And it is one way to make money and kind of get out of the matrix. But maybe you create a program, or you create, a fitness boot camp that you run once a week on Saturdays for free. And then from there, you gain experience at running boot camps. And then you can start doing that as, bringing your boot camp to like a gym and creating income that way.
And to speak to this word create, like creating creative, I almost feel like it's a mindset and a perspective first. Because let's say I'm an accountant. Come on, you can't be creative about like balancing the sheet, right? But you can be creative about your approach to your job.
Yeah.
As far as like, this is when I do this is when I don't do this is like, and you could make that fun within that realm. You can make it creative, like however, okay, I do this at this certain time. I work with these people at this certain time. And you can look at that in the frame of it being creative, because you're creating your life. You're creating what you do throughout the day. Yeah. And so like having that mindset makes it more fun for me to do my QuickBooks. It makes it more fun, for me to do the things that I don't really want to do, like go to the DMV, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to create this morning where I go do this. And so, I mean, that might be something that's like hard to swallow sometimes, but it is fun to play with.
Yeah. And essentially, that what you're describing is the, kind of the topic of, creating our reality, which is the law of attraction, which, I talk about law of attraction a lot. And I've, studied a lot of Abraham Hicks' work, and Abraham Hicks, the way that they describe this kind of exactly what you were just saying is, let's say, like, for example, you are an accountant or you have a job that you're not really passionate about. How do you bring joy to that? Because you can't just quit, because then how are you going to pay your rent? And then you feel that's where you get stuck, right? So you really start by noticing the things that feel good in life and then following that, like the little moments that feel good. And that can be as simple as being like, wow, my clothes are really comfortable, or I really like this brand of orange juice from the farmer's market, or I really like when I drive to work and I play this music or this podcast, like how it makes me feel. And you start noticing the things that feel good rather than focusing on the things that don't feel good. Like, my job is so boring. I hate sitting at a cubicle. My coworker is so annoying. My boss doesn't like me. I'm not making as much money as I could be. I'm not living in my soul's purpose. I don't know what my soul's purpose is. When you are thinking and speaking that way and affirming that, you continue to create that reality spiral.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't feel good. So to start to create a reality that feels good, start really small with noticing the tiniest things that feel good, the tiniest things that bring you joy. And this is where, you know, gratitude practice comes into play, whether that's writing it down or just saying like, oh, I'm really grateful for this sunny day. I'm really grateful that I have a best friend who sends me memes. It keeps me entertained throughout the day, right? When you start doing that, you shift your point of attraction. When your point of attraction shifts, what starts coming into your life changes. You start noticing different things because now your subconscious mind is changing. What you notice is changing. Opportunities will come to you, even if they may have been there all along. You didn't notice it because you were so focused on how much you hated sitting at a cubicle. And that's essentially how we start to create a reality that we feel excited about. And that's like we follow the steps. And a lot of people might ask the question, well, why can't I just go from working in the cubicle that I hate to then the next day winning the lottery and you know, getting a yacht and then like living my life? Like, if manifestation really works, then why can't I manifest that? Because with the concept of manifestation, we didn't come into this physical human realm to manifest things instantly. There's a buffer period because we crave to have the experience of moving from point A to point B so that we can cultivate knowledge, wisdom, and experience. That's essentially what our soul deeply wants. So you know, not saying that things can't happen overnight, because sometimes they do, but generally when you manifest something and you create your reality, there's, you know, what they call like a buffer period. There's just like, it's on its way. And as long as you like continue to stay in your vortex, is what Abraham Hicks calls it. Like, when you're in your vortex is when you're like, I'm noticing all the things that feel good and I feel good and I'm happy. And sometimes you fall out of your vortex and you're like, oh fuck, I just hurt my foot and life sucks or whatever, right? And that's when you fall out of your vortex, and then you have to slowly get back into your vortex. Okay, well, you know what? It's a really nice sunny day. Like, this new Florence and the Machine album just dropped, and it's like sounds really good and make me really happy. And you start noticing those little things, and you come back into your vortex, and then that's the place where you can continue to speed up your manifestations again.
Yeah. Well, and like there's two things that I always go back to in this. One of them is this story that I think I subconsciously internalized when I was younger, and then I understood it later when I got older. But I can't remember. It was like this silly cartoon. I don't remember what cartoon it was. And there was this little parable in it. And it said that a king, in the old days, whatever, a king had two right-hand men, and he had sent, he said, hey, go check out so-and-so city and let me know what the people are like, and go tell me if they're fair or evil. And then he says to his other guy, he's like, hey, go check out this other city and tell me if they're fair or evil. And so he waits, you know, a couple of months, and they come back, and so-and-so right-hand man number one says, he's like, the people are fucking awful. Everybody's, you know, the place stinks. It's terrible. Like, everybody's rude. There's, you know, turmoil. And then he asked the person number two, he's like, oh, it's actually, you know, it's beautiful there. Everybody's very nice. People are helpful. And he sent them to the same city. It's like it's about your perspective, and the
Yeah.
things that you're noticing
Mm-hmm.
is what will create your reality.
100%.
You know, and obviously, and now I'm not saying that like, you know, if you're trapped in prison, you know,
Right.
it sucks.
Of course,
But
we're not
like,
trying to bypass very real, hard experiences, especially ones that may be from circumstances that you are born into or put into against your will, or and they're hard. You know, both of us have we've experienced not having money.
oh yeah,
You know,
oh yeah.
like you have
like, I mean, I'm like, I come from poverty.
Yeah.
Like my dad was fucking homeless for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and like I come from a place of lack.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the point that I'm getting at is with like Viktor Frankl
Mm-hmm.
wrote a book, and he was a Holocaust survivor,
Mm-hmm.
and in his book is talking about even the things that he could notice and appreciate in the concentration camps, and like that shit makes me cry.
Yeah,
because it's like
that's
that's
crazy.
fucking wild.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for this person to find those things,
Yeah,
is like, what the fuck am I ever complaining about?
Yeah,
You know, like,
and it really just goes to show that anything is possible. And so if it comes down to you feeling like you are unhappy with what you're doing in life, whether that's your job or your relationship situation, your day-to-day life is not making you happy, start to shift your point of attraction by noticing the things that do make you happy, even the tiniest things, the things that feel good. When you get your coffee in the morning, just like before you drink your coffee, just be like, oh, I'm so thankful that I get to decide that I want coffee, and I get to have it like pretty instantly, right? Or I'm so thankful that I get to go to the Starbucks drive-through and I get to get like this special fancy drink that's not available to everybody in the world.
Hell no.
You know? And it's when you start doing that, like your whole frequency changes, and then that's truly where you start manifesting. And then, you know, scripting, which is like writing in your journal, saying affirmations, and starting to really believe that like, okay, I'm an accountant now, but I want to be a like financial coach for women or something like that. And then you start to affirm to yourself that, you know, I'm capable of helping people with my knowledge. I am a financial coach. And you maybe do, okay, what does a financial coach do? Okay, well, I'm going to take a coaching course just to learn how to do that, right? I'm going to start spending my free time, instead of, you know, watching Netflix, I'm going to spend my free time watching YouTube videos of other people who do this and learn. And then I'm going to spend my free time, you know, building out like a program on Excel and like making it look really pretty and inviting for women, and making women feel excited and empowered about their finances. And then before you know it, that you're like, okay, I think I'm ready to shift into this, and I'm going to start, instead of working full-time as an accountant, I'm going to go to part-time. And now I have more time to work on this. And that's how you slowly start to change things. And then before you know it, like you said, 2 months, you can change a lot. A year, you can have a massive transformation. And you'll look back in a year or a year and a half and be like, oh my gosh, I have a completely different life. I'm living in a totally different reality right now. And it all started because I started just noticing the small things and being thankful for them. And that's really where it starts.
Yeah. And then I in my gratitude journal, I was writing the things I was grateful for. And then for some reason I felt compelled to like put 1, 2, 3, like, and then I was like, oh my God, this is great. I can quantify the things that I'm grateful for, and I can't quantify the things that I don't have. It's an unbalanceable sheet. It's like you can have an infinite number of negative things. I don't have this. I'm not 7 feet tall. I can't dunk. Like, you know, like I can't, you know, I can't sing like this person. I can't rap like this person. I can't, like, it is literally an infinite number of things. I don't own a planet, like whatever. But you can quantify the things that you do have. And so you can drive yourself absolutely insane trying to find all the things that you don't have or whatever. But because you can quantify, you can put in a bucket the things that you do have, is like, that's sanity to me.
Yeah.
That's like, wow, this is a great foundation of like, okay, these are the tools that I have. Great. I'm not focused on all the other tools that I don't have because there's an infinite number of those. What do I do with the tools that I have in my fucking bucket?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's a great place to start and not looking over there at their tools because they're not yours.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. And I'm speaking to myself on this because this has been like an issue in my life, like something I've struggled with is like, oh, I wasn't like, I've been doing a lot of therapy on this, and it's like, oh, I didn't have a dad to show me how to do this. I didn't learn how to do this when I was a kid. I didn't blah blah blah, so I don't know how. It's like, the fuck, you know how to learn though. You have that tool of like, you know how to learn, and you actually learn pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So you don't need anybody to teach you. So I think being able to quantify the things that you have is like the best foundation to start to do anything. You know, so that speaks to lifestyle design too. It's like, oh, hey, I have these tools. Let me design my life with the tools that I have. And now you're creating.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because it seems like it's this big, abstract, complex concept, but it's really simple when it's like, where do I start? You start with just focusing on the positive things. And that's it. And that's where you start. This is a like kind of a funny story. So I have a cousin who's exactly 10 years younger than me, who was born on my birthday. So when I was 19, I was in the car with him and my other cousin. So he's 9 years old at this time. So a lot of spiritual teachers, including Abraham Hicks, also say that children are the closest to source because they're the closest to the other. Like they passed the veil sooner than us, right? Like we went through the veil into the human world like way later, you know, than that. We've been here for a long time. We kind of get disconnected from it, but children are closer because they were, you know, on the other world before. And so they actually have a lot to teach us, right? And it's true. If you look at a child, they just want to play all day. They just want to focus on what's happy. They don't want to do the stuff they don't want to do. They just want to be in their vortex. They just want to be like happy doing things that they want. And so anyways, my 9-year-old cousin at the time, I was complaining about something in the car. I don't remember what I was complaining about that day. And he was like, Bianca, it's really simple. Just FOTP, focus on the positive. And I was like, what? I was like, where did you learn that? And he was like, I just made it up right now. And I was like, and I think about that all the time. And sometimes when I'm like, oh, I'm not in my vortex, I'm like, focus on the positive, like FOTP. It's like this little saying that my kid cousin made up, and it's so wise and simple at the same time. And so, you know, just like having that awareness of like, oh, I'm not in my vortex, like I'm starting to focus on the negative things. Just bring yourself back in by like the small things. Like for me, I'm always like, my bed is really comfy. That's usually where I start.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I have a comfortable bed. That's something to be so grateful for. And that's how I start to shift back into my vortex.
Yeah, and on that note too, it's like, okay, when you wake up, it feels like sometimes, like if you play video games, you know, what are the tools that I have? Like you're not worried about like, oh, like if I'm playing, like I think Grand Theft Auto is like a good example because it's like such a free world or whatever. Like you wake up and like, okay, you have this much money and you have like this gun and you only have, you know, it's like, okay, what are you going to go do now? So you take inventory first. Yeah, I like that. Take inventory.
Yeah. I always recommend to people, somebody asked me on TikTok recently, what do you do on the days? They responded to my morning routine video and they said, this is great. I really want to do this, but what do you do on the days that you can't get out of bed? Like when you wake up and you're like depressed. And so I shared what I honestly do is that I take everything into account before I get out of bed. So I give myself extra time. My alarm clock is set an extra 15 minutes before I actually want to get out of bed. So when it goes off, I just immediately start being thankful for literally everything, the source energy that runs through my body, my able body, all of my working organs, the comfiness of my bed. Usually at this point, my cat Lumi is standing on top of me and I start petting her and I start, you know, being so thankful for my cats and thankful for my partner and thankful for my house. And I look out the window and I see a tree and I'm like, wow, I'm so thankful for that tree. Like I know what it it's like to live in a building where you look outside and you don't see trees. So I'm really thankful to look outside and see that tree, and just really into every single thing. And then as I get up, like it drastically changes my mood. And there are days when, you know, I've been diagnosed with clinical depression, and there have been days when I don't want to get out of bed. And I do the same process, but it's kind of like I'm arguing with a screaming toddler, and that screaming toddler is myself. And I'm like, nope, take those things into account. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. My bed is comfy. Yeah, it's comfy. Like my comforter is really warm. And then like you slowly work your way up. You take baby steps. You don't have to go from depressed and really feeling negative about your life and your situation to feeling like super positive and noticing that everything is great and you're grateful for everything and you have a gratitude list that goes 10 pages long. You take baby steps. Just starting with the tiniest little things that you can start to feel positive for, and watch how that changes your mood.
Yeah, and I think to speak to that too is to be careful of like fake positivity.
Totally.
Also, it's like, I'm so happy right now. I'm so happy right now. It's like
honor your feelings at the same time.
Like really, I read this book Tuesdays with Maury, and
oh my god, I read that book a long time ago.
Yeah, like remember the part where he talks about your emotions are like if somebody shoots you with an arrow and you don't allow yourself to like be sad. It's like you're keeping that arrow in your body. You're just like, I'm not sad, I'm not sad, I'm not sad, you know. And versus being like, fuck it, I'm sad.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sad. Now you're allowing that arrow to go through you, to let it penetrate through you. So now you can not have this thing stuck in you.
It's exactly.
And you let it heal.
Yeah. Letting things move through you is extremely important. And I think that, you know, having a mindful practice allows you to expand your self-awareness so that you can be aware of what you're feeling and take note of it. So then you can allow it to move through you, or see kind of like, where is it on the meter? Like how much do I need extra time in bed today? Do I need to go back to sleep and continue to sleep it off? Or do I need to like sit here and cry and like blast some music and allow myself to feel? Because we do have to allow, you know, our emotions to move through us, because our emotions are just energy in motion. We're sad. It needs to move through us. If it gets stuck right here, that's why we feel that like tightening pain in our chest or in our throat or in our stomach or in all our other energy centers. When we can allow ourselves to like honor that and be like, okay, I feel really fucking sad about this thing. Like I need to cry, and allow yourself to cry. And you'll notice that you feel better for a number of reasons. One, that crying regulates our hormones as well, but we allow it to literally move through us so that it's no longer penetrating us in the front, but it's moving through us and it's like out of our body through the back. And then we're able to move through it. And that's when, you know, you can start to then say like, okay, like I'm thankful that I allowed myself to cry, like, you know, and I'm thankful that my bed is comfy. And then you can start to like take those baby steps through it, but honoring your emotions is an important part of it.
Oh yeah. And like allowing them to move like through meditation changed my life. Like I used to just be so goddamn instinctual. Like I just living my life on instinct. The second that that's the thing, like meditation doesn't have to be so complicated. You just sit down and you
chill.
breathe.
Yeah.
And you just notice, oh, okay, these pants, you know, like my breath. And then all of a sudden, like shit starts coming up. You know, there are my meditation practice. Like when I started, like all of a sudden, my dad, and this is to speak on like the fluid. I was like, I don't know why this keeps coming up. Like I was like 27, 26 or something, 20, I think 27. And in my mind, I was like, you know, my issues with my dad have been solved. You know, like I'm over it. Blah blah. Well, that's bullshit. It's like I felt compelled to go fly to see him and more or less ask him like, you know, why weren't you there for us as kids? You know, like you just disappeared. And just the ability of me to do that, to confront him. And it wasn't like a nasty confrontation. I was like, hey, like, let's have dinner, you know, let's have a conversation. It was less so about his, you know, response. Like he had, you know, I mean, I don't even want to say excuses. He was just telling me like what his situation was. And it was less so about his response, but it was more so about me having that pent up for 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
I never was able to confront him about that. Like, Dad, why weren't you there for us?
Mm-hmm.
Instantly released like a weight in my chest, in my throat. And I shit you not, to this day, I can speak much more clearly and direct to people.
Mm-hmm.
I can set very clear boundaries. I can say, well, wait a second. I don't like that. Like, can we talk about this? Like, I feel like that was, not great. So let's sort this out.
Mm-hmm.
Versus shutting down and like closing off and not saying it because I don't want to have a confrontation. I want to be afraid of, of some kind of blow up that doesn't exist. It's always scarier in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
But it's allowed me to have much more clear and concise conversations. Help me in everything: relationships, business,
Mm-hmm.
like just my relationship with myself even. And so like allowing that fluid, and so whatever that means for you is like, maybe it's just sitting there and feeling it, or maybe it's like needing to have a conversation with somebody, and to do that in the most fair way possible. It's not like, hey, you fucked up my life, like, fuck you, like that's
right.
That's not great,
Right. Yeah. It's just noticing where it is pent up in your body. Like for you, it was like your chest and your throat, which is your heart and your throat center, which is, love and expression. And so when you allow yourself to like process the blocks that were in there by, having a conversation with your dad, then it allows those centers to now be more clear so that energy can flow through them even better, which is, kind of like what you just expressed. And the same for a lot of people might have like the pain like in their stomach, which can show up as digestive problems. It can show up as getting lots of stomach aches. And when they start to, follow a different path in life that brings them more joy, they might notice that clears up. Right. And so it's just kind of addressing those things first, noticing where you feel them in your body as well can allow you to like heal them. And that's essentially what, it's like what I do with Reiki is I help people by first noticing what they have stored in the different centers of their body.
Yeah, I'm interested about this Reiki.
Yeah, I'm going to give you Reiki.
Okay, deal.
Well, thank you for coming and having this conversation. Where can everybody find you, hear your music, and see whatever else you're up to?
You can find me on Instagram at Logos the God. And I have a new music video coming out.
I'm in it.
And yours truly is and you choreographed it as well. For the 27th of this month of May, I think.
Of May, yeah. So I think it will be out before this episode releases. Okay. So cool. They can go check it out. We'll link the YouTube video in the description if you want to check out the music video for Diaries of a Golden Calf.
Oh, perfect. But yeah, and lots more singles released this summer too. It's going to be very exciting.
Yay!
Yeah.
If you like music that is different, unique, kind of has like a dark, grungy, like I don't know what is the style of your music?
It's called epic rap music.
Is that like a genre?
It is now.
Oh, okay, cool. You made the genre?
I made it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
It is now. For me it's not just about the music. It's about the whole picture. It's like there's allegories to every song.
It's very theatrical.
Yeah, it's theatrical. It's like there's a purpose to it.
There's a lot of symbolism as well. It kind of takes like a lot of symbolism with kind of like these like kind of pieces of the way people would perceive modern music, right? Like the kind of puns and things that you hear in like rap music and the beats and stuff, which is kind of modern, but then like a lot of symbolism is like based on a lot of ancient stuff, which is really cool. So definitely check out Logos music. If you want to see the music video, I'll link it in the description below. And Yeah, I think that's it. I think we had a great conversation today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave your thoughts or comments below. And if you love this episode, share it and tag us on social media, Bianca Taylor M and Logos to God, so we can see that you're enjoying the episode. And as always, I'm sending you so much love and light.